These were all plugs that we transplant out with the water wheel. The first top beds are Walla Walla. The rest are Bridgers. Last year was the first year we grew Bridgers, and it was an amazing crop. We had a lot of rain last year, and the Walla Wallas did great. This year I don't think they're not sizing up like they did last year. I think we planted them maybe a week later, and this was the year it made a difference. Now we do them on white plastic because for the Walla Wallas it eliminated bottom rot. It used to be a real problem on black plastic, but when we switched to white, no problem. So I started expanding. Well, if it works on the Walla Wallas, it'll work on all the onions, and it did. It did great for the Bridger last year. Now last year, the one thing I did learn, because I did all my onions on white, it was a cold year, so the few beds that were on black outgrew the white ones like significantly. So this year I hedged my bets. I kept these on white. The bottom two are on black. You could see the difference in growth, although actually they're maturing already, so they're falling down. So you may not see, but the difference is evening out now. So they're already starting to go down, and I'm not seeing the size that we did. But you can see the effectiveness of the complete coverage, the ground cover, a permeable ground cover between. We use sandbags, not staples. I would tell you to use sandbags and not staples. Use staples, you'll regret it. Sandbags are easy. Once you have them, you got them forever.
What will we regret about the staples?
Well, you're going to poke holes. Everywhere there's a hole, you're going to, even with the staple, and you're going to get a weed. And and then you got staples, and you got to pull it up. You're going to rip some. You're going to leave some. Your tractor will find them. So don't use staples, although a lot of people do. Ground prep is really important when you use this. You want to have it nice and smooth, so it lays down nice and smooth. Where I was in a rush and the conditions sucked, it caused problems. So the labor for weeding this field was really negligible. We went through once, maybe twice, just to weed out in the actual holes, and but the onions grew fast, and choked out, closed the hole up. So for me, it works. I know plastic's not for everybody. Some people hate it. Some people think I'm the devil. I don't care. This is what I'm using now. It's fine. I've been using plastic since the 70s, all right? The world hasn't ended, and I'm still here. And all the people who used to yell at me in NOFA meetings are out of business, or they're doing something else, so I don't care. But now, so there's better tools now for bare ground cultivation, which didn't exist back then. There's much better tools. So if you get into onions and you're doing it in bare ground, that's fine. There's better tools available now. But my system's already got an investment in the equipment and the technique of doing this, so I'm sticking with this. I don't think I'm gonna change right now.
What do you use
for me, it works.
Plastic with?
We have a plastic mulch layer. A bed, it makes a raised bed, puts down, I think we walked by it, I'll show it to you later. It puts down 2 drip lines, or 1 depending on your needs, and it puts the plastic down. 4-foot plastic, and it's very efficient. The reason I got it, one year I did, the first year I did plastic, I didn't have enough to finish the roll. And so I did winter squash, and then there was no plastic, so I finished planting. And in the fall, I went there and we're harvesting till I got to the part where there was no black plastic and there was hardly any winter squash. And I said, oh, so that's the difference. And so all my crops, almost all my crops now, go on plastic with drips, and that's just the way I do it. I started doing the ground cover. It eliminated erosion. It eliminates weeds, eliminates erosion, and it's been good. It's a protectant on the soil. Cultivating, you're burning up organic matter. So I think it more than offsets the negative of buying a petroleum product. This is reusable. Trevor says it's good for 6 years. I'm in my 3rd year now. I have no reason to believe that it won't last 6 years easily. It's very heavy, it's permeable, but very thin. It's heavy UV treated, much more than just regular ground cover. This is a special thing that he said he invented himself, and he had a factory in France that makes it, or something. So.
And what are you paying for a roll of this?
I don't remember. I think it came to like 12 cents a foot. Okay, I do it by, and it's a one-time investment, although I purchased it over 2 years. First year I did a trial of X amount, then I went whole hog last year and I spent a bunch of thousands of dollars. My wife hates me, but on the other hand, I get to show off clean fields. So, and I won't buy any more, I promised her. I had to take the pledge.
Did you used to do cover crop between the rows? And
No.
No. Okay.
No, my fields are always cover crop after the crop.
Okay.
One of the reasons everything's on plastic is I do early harvest. For me, the ability to get everything out of the field in time to get a cover crop on mitigates the fact that I'm using, that's my debt, all right? I'm repairing, I'm maintaining the integrity of the soil life. I'm doing a good cover crop, keeping the soil fertility. The cover crop captures whatever excess fertilizer is still in the ground, smothers the weeds, add organic matter, and it protects it from erosion. If you noticed, my fields are somewhat hilly. This is not a farm, river valley farm. So I farm basically on top of the hills, and the hills go either way. They go up and down and sideways, and driving a tractor and laying this stuff down can be tricky at times, and even doing the transplanting. But like I said, I'm getting better at it now. So a few more years I'll really be good.
What's your routine in the spring? You kill the cover crop is.
It depends on what it is. If it's peas and oats, I could just rotivate it in. And I'll do a deep tillage, and I'll prepare the soil, and boom. So I try not to plow, but if I didn't get the crop out early and I had to use winter rye, which grows great, but I hate it because it comes up and you can't rototill it in, and if you don't get to it early enough, it's the devil. You got to plow it, and then you got to plow it, you got to disc it. So there's that. So it has its advantages and its disadvantages. So for me, I try to get as much field planted to cover crops. First week of September, I like to have the majority of all my crops out of the ground. Nothing good comes of a crop sitting in the field in the fall. Nothing good comes of it. There's evil things in the soil waiting to, get into your vegetables and ruin them. There's pathogens, there's bacteria, there's rain. We used to worry about acid rain. We thought that's why all the winter squash and pumpkins were rotting back in the beginning of the 80s. All that acid rain from Ohio, from their smokes. Anyone here from Ohio? Anyway, but it doesn't seem, acid rain doesn't seem to be much as a problem. It hasn't been. It's coming back. Apparently our president thinks it's great. So we'll see. It'll change again. Things change, things evolve. That's the nature of farming.
How do you pull this up, the weed mat up in the fall?
We roll the ground cover. We roll up. We fold it twice. Here's the technique. We start at one end. Well, first you got to get the sandbags off.
Right.
So we use the tractor. They're all thrown in bins. We fold it up twice, then we roll it up.
Okay.
So then this way, when we unroll it, because we now know it's going to be twice as long, we know the size. So we know, because each field's slightly different. But we don't cut anymore. We've got it where it works, and we just overlap, or we gap it up with some remnants. There's always some remnants. And then the plastic, it pulls up pretty easily by hand because there's no weeds now. Back in the day, we would use an undercutter, and actually sometimes when we're harvesting the onions, I still use the undercutter. So once the ground cover's off, we take the tractor, it undercuts the whole bed, the onions come up super easy. The plastic's already dislocated, so by the next day it's ready for cover crop. So we could go through a field, and if I need to, I could plant the next day with another crop if I have to. So that's our technique. It's focused, it's efficient, it works, it grows crops. But you got to pay attention. You can't, it's not a miracle, I'm going to grow things on plastic. Howie says there won't be weeds. That's only half of the picture. You've got to be part of a comprehensive weed control, crop rotation system. It's not a silver bullet. You've got to have a good plan to keep weeds to a minimum in your rotation and how you prepare your fields. So if you do that, and plastic is the icing on the cake to allow you to get to the next level. But don't expect it to, it could cause more problems than it then it solves if you don't have a comprehensive plan for the weeds and the grasses and whatnot. I've seen fields abandoned because grasses grew up because the farmer didn't even know how to didn't cultivate, and crops abandoned in plastic, all right, and left there and plowed in because he couldn't remove the plastic. There was no economical way, so he plowed in the plastic. Plastic never goes away, you know. But even I'm plowing a biodegradable plastic that I tried 30 years ago, and there's still pieces of it. That's why I don't use biodegradable plastic. I know, you know, I still don't want to use it. I don't know what it's biodegrading into, and that's why NOFA hasn't certified it. So I am not using it. I'll rather pull this up, and yes, it goes to the landfill. So anyway, that's
you wouldn't think of planting anything into this? Like once you get the onions out, just putting something else right in the black plastic?
Not really. No, not really. No, I don't have anything else.
Yeah.
I'm very focused. Sure. You know, don't come here with your wild ideas.
Your rotation on the Alliums, how many years?
I try to be at least 3 years, at least not an Allium. So in the 4th year, it goes into an Allium. So that's basically my rotation. And usually it'll be winter squash, and I follow with Alliums because the winter squash cleans up the field, and then after the Allium, it goes back into actually cover crop for the next 2 years.
Okay.
So
do you not have much problem with weeds growing in the holes?
There's some problem, but we pull them out. I mean, we don't watch them. We pull them out. We go in. I take a crew, and we go in and we weed them, you know, as early as possible. We try not to wait, and you know, weeds don't wait for you. That's my theory.
Howard, have you always been on 4 rows?
No. Well, I used to be on 4 rows when we planted by hand, okay, and I just had a dibbler, and we did 4 holes. And then when we went to the water wheel transplanter, we went to 3 because that's all the crew could handle. But then then I didn't think I could fit 4. For some reason, it came to me in a flash this spring. You know, I think we could get 4 rows on, and we're good enough now. The crew's good enough at transplanting and with the creeper gear and the Kubota, and so we went to 4, and it's increased our efficiency.
We're at 3, but we haven't gone. We bought this, but we haven't put it down yet.
Oh.
The weed mat.
Yeah.
But I can't. If it's in 4, it's too tight for my cultivator. It goes up to the plastic. The onions, but I'm just looking at this thinking, oh, if we did, the weed mat might buy us an extra row.
Right. Yeah. No, it worked for me. Again, with the trick with the weed mat, you want to lay your beds almost as close as you can. You don't want to have gaps with the weed mat, and you want to make sure your ground is nice and smooth. And we've actually gone through by hand after the transplanting if it wasn't just right. And I'll show you some spots where it wasn't just right, but we went ahead anyway, and you hate yourself for not, you know, preparation. Good preparation solves a lot of you know, you never regret it. Pay your money up front. Your first cost is your best cost. Do it and go forth and prosper. Crystal, any input before? I don't want to leave without. I know that there's very few thrips in here, but I'm starting to see just today more botrytis. There was very little botrytis. I've treated this field. I've been spraying weekly with copper, and this would be. Normally I would be spraying tonight, but all of a sudden this last 2 days ago, because when Vern was here, it was very little damage. And this end of the field, for some reason, seems to be more damage. I don't know why. It's a little better as we go in.
What is the botrytis?
Yeah. How many of you know botrytis? The bullseye.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Is that called purple blotch too?
That's it.
yeah. Well, you
Right,
know, to be quite honest with you, I can't tell the difference without some better equipment than my eyes. So they're treated the same as far as using copper. So it could be either one, and I couldn't tell you the difference.
What copper product are you using?
I use New Cop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cost effective.
Very cost effective.
Yeah.
Now, and I just picked up the Suffix oil,
Oh yeah.
and I thought it was just stylet oil, but when I opened it up, it's like, whoa, this ain't just stylet oil.
No, it's got some activity.
It's a whole different thing, and I just tried it the other night on a squash because I found some alternaria on my spaghetti squash, and I tried one patch on the Cipolinis, and right now, so I can't tell you the effectiveness. It reads great,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It's also good for thrips, so I haven't used it on this. I was gonna do it, I guess tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it for thrips, but I'm gonna mix it with Pyganic.
Yep.
And
That's
so I don't know if you people are familiar with thrip marks.
Yeah.
They're little they bite, they chew backwards, so you'll see a little line.
Yeah.
And what happens with the thrips, and why I try to stay on top of the thrips, it becomes a vector, an entry point for botrytis.
And bacterial.
And right, so it's never good, you know. They don't eat much, but they cause a lot of problems.
What was that oil you said you?
Suffix oil, and I'll show you in the, I got it on hand. But you can see there's chewing, you can see the little tiny. Now you could find them, you got to go into the whirl of the onion to actually see them. Now you may not see them in here, there's very few. And you got to separate the leaves and really look in there. You got to have really good vision or a magnifying glass. And you know, if you see one, it's not terrible. If you know, if you see two, it's going to be terrible because they're doing the hoochie coochie down there. So you know, one's a lonely number.
Yeah.
But-
so, I mean, the thing I always tell growers is if you see the thrip damage from up here, you're too late.
Right.
So you want to be scouting now, especially, I mean, you guys are really quite fortunate. In New York, we're inundated already.
Really.
So the fact that you're right at this part of the thrip population is great. So when you go home, I mean, what Howard's saying, it's not from up here, right? It's down on your hands and knees, looking in the plant. And the threshold for action for organic growers is 2 thrips per leaf. So use a magnifying glass, look for 2 thrips per leaf, and that's when you want to look to be applying something. And are you doing weekly? Is that what you're looking at?
Weekly. I'm doing a weekly spray. And it's been good. Now the other, normally in a wet year, there's less thrips. So hot, dry weather, they love.
Yep.
And we assume in a wet year they're drowning because they're down in there and the rain really washes them out.
Yeah.
But we haven't had rain. So this is like, so that I've kept the thrips off so far has been pretty good, but the botrytis is troubling, and it could be the latent damage from the windstorm. You know, anytime you get damage to an onion leaf, it opens up opportunity for trouble.
Have you been having heavy dews? I mean, it's so
Not
dry, but
particularly,
we're
no.
having heavy dew.
No,
No?
not regularly. There might have been a few.
Okay.
Is that a vector point for Fusarium? Is that a vector point for Fusarium?
Thrip feeding?
But
The thrip point.
No, not, well, technically it could be, but what we see as more of a vector for Fusarium are actually soil-borne insects. So the bulb mites that are actually in the soil, specifically the areophyid mites, which are microscopic. They're the ones that actually lead to injury that can allow thrips, or allow Fusarium in. Yeah, this is all above ground stuff. Yeah, but it does definitely impact bacterial diseases. And the other thing I really like about what you're doing here with this tight spacing, the plants are growing quite upright. So in a wet year, you might see more bacterial rots, but because your spacing is tight and this space is tight, you don't end up with so much water pooling in there, and you get less bacterial issues. So that's another really good point here.
Well, in a really wet year, of course, having a raised bed will save. I've never had Fusarium as an issue in onions.
No, it's rare.
So it's pretty rare. So a raised bed does many things. It's giving you proper drainage, and you just easier harvest. So it's always a good thing, and it's focusing the fertilizer when you make the bed, taking your whatever your field spread. My mulch layer, we actually add fertilizer. There's an attachment right before the bed gets made, so we're adding more fertilizer right in the bed that gets made. So, and then we fertigate. But it's been a funny year. I expected the Walla Wallas look like they're sizing up good, but the bridges, for some reason, they seem to be going down like a week earlier without the sizing that I saw last year. Now, one question I have for you is when to stop fertigating and when to stop irrigating.
Garlic or onions?
But onions right now.
Onions, I would stop fertilizing at bulb initiation, which depends on the variety, right? Different varieties initiate at different times. Like your bridgers initiated far earlier than your later keepers. So you have to look at that and time appropriately. And for irrigation, I would go right up until the tops start to go down with onions.
Right.
Garlic, it's a little bit different.
Right.
But an onion is a water balloon. So,
Right.
you know, the more you can pump moisture into that, the more it's going to take it and the more weight you have.
So even if, what if it's half down? Is that just, do you?
Yeah, I'd let it.
You let it
go ahead
be.
and
It's
stop.
okay.
What is the half down and the full down? I've never.
Oh, so onions, like if we look down at the bridgers, they're starting to fall over. We call it tops down or lodging. It's a physiological response. The onion is telling you, I'm done. I'm turning off the pipes from the leaf into the bulb, and I'm ready to go dormant. So there's a specific set of cells in the leaves that die first, and the leaves fall over. Except when you have high disease pressure, which hopefully you don't see too often, but if you have really bad purple blotch, for example, then the plants die standing up, and they just sit there forever, and that's really
We had
sad.
that hard to, at the seminar, it was hard to pronounce name of one of the diseases that we had.
Oh, yes.
Through everything with the onions last year.
Yeah.
But they still bulbed up okay.
Good.
And they stored.
And they stored okay?
We had Patterson's until May.
Nice.
Onions could attract every disease known to man and unknown, I think.
Yes, that too.
They're a tricky crop. Highly, they're in demand. Organic onions, it's the gold-plated vegetable, and we focused on that, and that's why we grow a lot. So this gets us into the market, the Walla Wallas and the Bridgers. We get our yellow onion market established, and then we'll follow up with the main crops. We have Patterson, and we do Champagne, for red, not Champagne. It's
Cabernet.
like Cabernet. I was going to say Burgundy, but no, it's good. Yeah, it's one of those wines. So let's, well, thanks for the input. That's great.
How much?
As often and as much as I can. Every time, I fertigated weekly. I use Nature Sauce. It's 311, but I boost it up with calcium nitrate. And so I'll put in a couple of pounds of calcium nitrate for every watering for 3 beds, 4 beds, a couple of pounds. It sounds like it's not really a lot. It's 1501. That's calcium nitrate. It's a great fertilizer, high end, and it's in the form that onions really like. It doesn't affect the pH. It's non-acid forming, readily available in any temperature. And I may not have used enough. I was using more than I've never used it. I've been trying to use it more and more, but I've been a little skittish,
Is it liquid or is it
It's granular. I used to be able to get, the first bags I got were very finely granulated and they dissolved instantly. Now it's a granular, which makes it easy if you're spreading it by hand, but you got to dissolve it in the water and then feed that through the dosatron.
Certified organic.
Calcium nitrate? Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
We've been
Well,
using
sodium
Chilean.
nitrate as well. So.
We've been using
It is Chilean is
You're saying
Chilean.
sodium nitrate. Yeah.
yeah,
Sodium nitrate.
sodium nitrate. Yeah, sodium nitrate. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're allowed 15. It's sort of vague. 15% of your nitrogen use. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you got to take into consideration what's already there in your organic matter. We have very high organic matter. Some of my fields that were averaging like 6.5. Some of my fields are up to 8% organic matter. So we have a pretty good base of nitrogen, there, but it's not there when onions want it. So you really, or garlic in the spring. Now the weird thing about garlic in the spring, normally I would feed it in April. Well, in April my garlic was under snow. So it's been a strange year, and that's why I think I got fusarium, because of the weirdness of the weather. It was a weird year. Well, thanks, Crystal. This helps a lot.
All right, I was wondering why 2 per cell. These are the bridgers here.
These
and one, as
are
opposed to
the
one.
bridges. Walla Wallas, I like them big. For me, they'll average a pound. All right.
Oh, okay.
So I like the math of a pound per hole.
Yeah.
All right. And the bridges are, now you'll get more poundage per field in multi-seeded plugs, but you'll get a smaller onion most of the time. In a good year, like on my Pattersons last year, was pretty amazing. You'll get a triple seeded plug, but they were all big. Same thing with the bridgers, but this year seems to be a slightly different year, at least as the bridges, and they're running small in the multi-seeded plugs, but the single plugs are running a little bigger. So it depends on what your market is and your fertility is. I don't know what happened. We haven't harvested yet, but right now it looks, my expectations are lowered for the bridges as far as yield were. So the Patterson and the others look like they're coming along. And the Walla Wallas look great. So my theory is to get the top, you want to get the top as big as you can, as quick as you can. You get a big top and a stiff neck, you're going to get a big onion. If you've got a scraggly looking top and a scraggly looking neck, you're not getting a yield at all. So that's why you want to get them in early, feed them a lot, make them drink and eat and talk to them nice. What's what?
You start them as plants, or you start them as you're doing transplanting cells like plugs?
We start them inside and we set out plugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
You doing
How my onions doing?
Coming along.
All right.
Yeah,
Hey?
good.
Okay. She's one of my onion customers.
You do
so.
128s or?
We do 128s and we do 200s.
Okay.
And I did an experiment with 128s and 200s. The 128, you're putting out, a bigger plug, but I grow so many onions, it takes a lot of space. And we had I think 400 trays of 200 onions. It's just a lot of onions we set out. And it's over 100,000 onions that we grow. So, but the 128s were beautiful plugs and they took right off. So,
When do you start them?
March. Yeah.
Really? Right.
End of February, beginning of March. There's no point getting them in too early because you don't know when you're going to get them in the ground, and you get agitated and you create stress, and that's no good. Here's one of the water valve headers. We have these set up around the farm. We have the main line is buried, and then we could control the water to each field with these simple on-off valves, and you got to remember to leave them open in the fall or you'll be replacing your valves. I don't worry about the PVC pipe plastic in the ground freezing because it doesn't break, but these babies, they'll break and they're a pain. So each field is controlled. So there's our leeks. We do a couple of thousand leeks. I've cut down a little bit. Nice crop in the fall. It works out nice. We sell them by the pound. You got Cipollini's, couple of beds of Patterson snuck in here. And we've got some problems. Where's Crystal? We've noticed Vern thought we had a virus going on in the onion due to the waviness of the leaf. And I'm not familiar with that. These are the shallots, I think, here.
The thing that my virologist loves to say, I think that his favorite 4 words are, "It's not a virus."
Okay.
No, Crystal, it's not a virus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Vern likes saying that word, I think.
Well,
It's like a naughty word to Vern.
I use ozone for that. When I'm just, it's ozone. We all
Okay.
have our thing.
All right.
It could be a virus, but it could also be just random environmental stress. The only way to know is to test it. And then the other thing is, if they size fine, is it a concern? Because
Right.
a virus is only an issue if it drops your yield. If not,
Absolutely. No, some cultivars, they have viruses. That's what they do, but they grow and you get a decent yield.
absolutely.
So I get it. You can't grow things sterile. I'm not sure of the state of this crop this year.
Yeah, it does. I mean, the
It's showing some stress to me.
yeah, and the blotchiness actually worries me more than the crumply leaves.
Yeah, I'm seeing some purple blotch or botrytis.
Or just
and
weird, like this to me looks more like a viral issue where it's got multiple colors of green, the mottling. So yeah, if Vern's taking samples to do virus
he didn't take the samples. That's up to me to do.
Oh, well, if you're
So,
taking samples,
I
then
will.
I would test them.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing from here just a difference from yesterday to today.
Yeah.
Right behind you, so I'm seeing a difference on the leaves.
Well, and you know the
So-
funny thing about viruses in general is depending on when they came into the crop, they may or may not affect yields. So
Right.
if this is something that was vectored in by an insect, although it's pretty darn uniform, which is another reason we might think it's not a virus. Virus tends to be in the pattern of bugs moving through your fields. So you'll see, like with squash in particular, which get a lot of viruses, you'll see the diagonal movement through the field that a leafhopper or whoever did, feeding and moving. But you rarely see it be this uniform. So that makes me wonder if it's something in your environment as well, or something in the seed. That's a possibility.
It could be. Normally we have a pretty good yield on shallots and cipollinis. It's been a pretty good crop for us.
Do you treat your seeds?
Treat them? No, I don't.
Oxidate or anything like that?
No.
You might still have a good yield.
Yeah, we never know. We'll see. We'll see how it all works out.
Yeah.
Again, you can see the ground cover, bed to bed, and no weeds. An old Austrian farmer, biodynamic farmer, years ago, when he visited my garden, my first year in business, and I had a lot of weeds, and he looked at me and says, "Why are you growing weeds?" And he said, "There's no money in weeds." So that was my education. It's like, oh right, okay. So he had a very tidy operation, but he was I learned. So that's that, leeks, hemp. Pumpkins are here, again, all from transplants. Everything's on plastic with drips. And these were under row covers, under remay, up until about July 3rd, I think we took the remay off. And they've already got some nice fruit setting in here. Again, I try to grow them fast, choke out the weeds, solid coverage. That's what I like to do. And then early harvest, even on the pumpkins, I like to get things out of the field early. Nothing good happens to a pumpkin in the field in the fall. Once it's half ripe, you want to get it out. If it's half orange, get it out. You don't want to wait for it to be. There's no need. Just cut it and.
To your food.
Well, things go bad in the field. You know, as much I love the soil, that's what I'm connected to the soil, but nothing good is happening in the soil in the fall. You just want to get out of there quickly. All right. Here's another distribution header that we put in. Here's the water's coming up here, so we have the built-in pressure reducers, so we don't have to have them on the end of the pipes. This goes down to the lower field. This is to the solar field, which is out there, and then these are the two close fields. So it's just
3/4 inch pipe?
Yeah, 3/4 inch pipe. It was 1 inch is the main line. Now, one thing I was able to do here, and I do on some of the fields, is the header pipe. I put ground cover under the header pipe as well, so the header pipe isn't lost in the weeds. I've been to a lot of farms and the header pipe's in the weeds, and some of my fields they can't find the header pipe. So, but I like seeing the header pipe, so I put it. We go through the extra work of laying down ground cover so we can see the header pipe. It makes it easy to come out and shut and open the valves as needed. So you can see the way my fields kind of undulate, and which makes it pretty and interesting. But it made it, erosion control was a primary concern for me, and that's why I got into the ground cover. Patterson is the main crop. The red, the two first ones are the sweet one. I always forget the name from Johnny's. It's not candy. It's the better than candy. And then the burgundy, no, Cabernet for the red. Cabernet's great. I used to grow Red Bull or something, Red Wing, but Cabernet is like, it's ready 2 to 3 weeks earlier. It's beautiful, and we stopped growing. They're just as big, and they keep fine. They keep great. I'm not so interested in storage onions per se, although Pattersons store great. I don't store crops. I try to sell out by Thanksgiving. I let my customers store them. I just don't want to be in the storing vegetable business. This was all one variety. I call it Granby because the seed originally came from Granby, Connecticut, from Garlic Gary that I stumbled upon, and had the biggest garlic I ever saw. I was with Paul Harlow and Mike Collins, and we just were like, what the f-? So anyway, I got the seed from him. It seemed to be a good parent material to work with, and I've been trying to get it as big as Garlic Gary, and I guess he's in Granby, Connecticut, and it's different soil, and I haven't been able to get it as big, but it does get big. Now, this bed seemed to be better than the other beds. I have no idea why. It was all the same variety. This bed was a little bigger, it's a little greener. There's hardly any fusarium in it. I have no clue. Crystal's going to tell me why.
So the thing that I saw this winter, which is the opposite of what we're seeing here, is that I'd never spent much time walking my garlic fields in the winter until this year. And we had that little thaw that occurred.
Right.
But the ground was frozen, and
Right.
I had ponding on my very gravelly soil. I had ponding occurring in the trial. And that correlated really well with the fusarium that we had. And so I'm wondering about winter injury from the freezing and thawing of that water that was happening because of the little pond at the level of the garlic. Even though it was on raised beds, it was still right there. So I'm questioning that, but in this particular case, I can't imagine that there would be more ponding up here than there would be down there. So.
And nothing, you know, all those questions, we look at it every which way and say, well, if the ponding was true, then the dips would be,
Right.
but no. There was no correlation. Some of the best ones were in the dips.
Right.
So now we use Remay, double layer Remay as our cover. We don't use hay, it's too much work, and because we're on plastic, the hay blows off and all that stuff. So, and this also was total ground cover. It was, you know, plastic ground cover, so virtually no weeds. So we do the Remay, it goes, you know, we could lay it down, you know, fairly quickly, 2 layers, and it's been great in that way. 5 years ago, we never used to cover our garlic, and we never had any winter loss at all for like 20 years. And then all of a sudden, 5 years ago, we started losing garlic to winter loss. And so we did 1 layer of Remay, and it helped a little. So then we went to 2 layers, and it helped tremendously. Jack Mannix at Walker Farm, he lost 30% of his garlic this winter. And we're pretty simpatico in like how our garlic reacts, but we didn't have hardly any winter loss. So I was like, yes, I'm gonna win. And then, you know, but nature's like gave me the, you know, the big few and took it away anyway. So I wound up losing 30% anyway. We did find some mites in some of the, so, you know, we did send it up to be tested. And so we found fusarium, we found mite, we found sort of everything in the bulbs. But we didn't see mites in very many bulbs. Mites used to be a problem in my own seed because we were drying our garlic, and we'll get to that in the storage portion of our program. We were drying it in, as people do, in an old barn. Well, guess what lives in an old barn and old hay and old wood? Mites. So since we've segued out of that, we haven't had the mite problem so it's hard to say, you know, you get a damaged bulb, mites come in, you know, it's a secondary thing. I don't think the mites caused the damage.
Well,
any insight on that?
Yeah, so there's the question of which mites we're talking about.
Right.
Like the bulb mites, I completely agree with you. And they're the little white pearly ones that you can see. Absolutely. But these little areophyid mites, what we're learning finally is that they can blow on the wind. They're small enough that they're like dust particles, and they can actually go from place to place. And they have lots of hosts. So it may be that you could end up with a mite population in the middle of the season. They blow onto your garlic and migrate down.
Wow.
And we could be having that problem.
Where has that been seen as a...
The research was, I want want to say the research was done in Australia. It was our Australian pathologist that pointed it out. But I'd have to go back and look at where that research was done.
But nobody's finding that particularly in the Northeast?
Oh yeah, no, when we started looking for those mites immediately after harvest,
right.
we found them many places that we looked.
Oh, that's not good news, Crystal.
I know.
I thought you were going to come bringing us good news.
We'll have some good news. We'll have some good
All right. So,
here's the great news is that if you dry in a warm environment,
yes.
over 110 degrees,
Oh.
you only get there for a day. If you just get up to that temperature for a day,
I did.
it suppresses them.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
I had a fight with my staff. They were freaking out. And I'll show you when we get there.
Fusarium. But what I would look for is for the roots to be missing. And this is not too bad. But if you pull back into the center, you can see that some of the roots are in fact rotting. So it's at 100%. It's like 80%, but this is still a totally marketable bulb. So we'll pass that around. It's 80%.
Did you say never pull it by hand?
Well, so the problem with pulling it like this rather than digging it is especially the soft, schmutzy stuff that's on the outside stays in the hole and you don't see it. So if I pulled it out with all the dirt and gently pull it apart, I see more of what's going on. And sometimes you'll pull a perfectly clean bulb out of the ground, which tells you that everything that was decaying just now is in the hole.
Yeah, we don't harvest these by pulling it. We use the bed lifter. And I just run down with the tractor and it makes it so much easier and better for the garlic. We don't like pulling on it because exactly for what she said, but you're damaging it a little. But this should be the average size of Granby or larger, and that would be a premium size. That's what we try to do here, is try to grow a premium size garlic. Most of my business has been selling seed garlic to other growers. And large seed gives you large bulbs. So size does matter when it comes to garlic. And we did rogue through once or twice pulling, but this bed was still the best bed out of all these beds up on this field.
Yeah, and it's pretty nice actually.
But you do get, that's a did you find a?
No, so this is more, and this is a mix of bacteria and fungi. And then you see, so if you pull something like this and you see bugs on it, don't worry. I mean, worry about that, but don't worry about the bugs. Because they're just like tiny garbage people. And they're just cleaning up. So that could have been anything. This one, Howard, ever had your seed tested for bloat nematode?
Yes.
Okay, and it's all negative?
I don't test it every year.
Yeah. When I see...
I don't like that, yeah.
I know. When I see a bulb split from the basal plate, that kind of concerns me. And mind you, we used to be really scared of bloat nematode, and now we're just...
Well, I did send these up. They were tested, and they did not find the bloat. Right. There are other issues, but not the bloat nematodes.
Well, good. And, you can always test again, but the bottom line for Fusarium is that when you have a relatively dry rot that takes out the basal plate specifically, and it's kind of orangish or brownish, that's the Fusarium. So when we're talking
pink
about
as
IV,
well,
pink, brown, orange. Pink is very diagnostic. Then that's certainly Fusarium. And out of the field, we see more of the basal rot, and then in storage, we see the brown spots forming, which is the bulb rot. Two different Fusaria.
Yes, I can find it.
But though, garlic will come up through the snow, but if there's snow on the remay, you can't take it off. So it's,
I didn't know if it was because it laid in the sun for a little bit. I just
How often do you feed
I pulled
this
it and it was laid out. And
I was feeding it weekly.
You didn't see it when he pulled it.
So I couldn't get my first feeding until, and I also ran cease, which is a biological fungicide through the water. So we planted it with cease, and my first watering was with cease, and we fertilized it. It was first week of May when I finally was able to get the drips hooked up, and so it was later, then 2 to 3 weeks later than I normally start feeding, and then I fed it like weekly.
Do you feed it the same way as the onions?
Yep. Yeah, sodium nitrate. Yep. And 3-1-1.
Thank you.
And blend them together, and they need food. garlic is a heavy nitrogen feeder in the spring, and of course there's not a lot of nitrogen available in the spring. So, you know, I used to top dress with blood meal, you know, and this and that, and a lot of work, and did okay, you know. But when I switched to liquid feeding, then I was able to get the nitrogen to it when it wants it, not when I could, you know. So I'm getting bigger garlic. That's been my goal. I don't even have garlic. This isn't even exactly the best garlic soil, so I'm doing the best I can. So I went to the raised beds. I'm really babying it to try to get that premium garlic.
Are you mixing in pelletized in the fall as you put down the plastic?
No, there's no fertilizer in the fall. No, I used to use compost. I didn't do it this year. Normally I would spread a lot of compost. And sometimes Creer's chicken pellets as well, chicken fertilizer, and I didn't. I didn't do that, though we did it in the bed because the mulch layer has an applicator, as I mentioned, so we did put down maybe 600 pounds to the acre right in the bed. But mostly the fertilizer is coming from through the rotation. This was in peas and oats last year, and it's coming through the soil, the whole soil fertility program. So it's part of a comprehensive plan.
And so in your wonderful yellow packet, there's a year 1 study about fusarium management, which also talks about the effects of black and white plastic and straw mulch in year 1 of the study. It looks like that. I should stop putting my name on so many gross pictures, and it also shows you what different types of fusaria look like at different times. Basically, from our year 1 part of the study, what we found is that none of these cultural controls that we were trying had a significant difference aside from variety. So if you have a variety that has horrible fusarium, what we are supposing, but we're going to need some more work to back this up, is that it's a variety that's not well adapted to your environment and you should stop growing it. That was the only thing that had a significant difference over the other treatments. So for us, we struggle with growing Spanish Roja, which was one of our treatments, and we have a lot more fusarium in Spanish Roja than in any other system. So
why did you pick that? Because I don't know anybody who grows Spanish Roja.
Oh, we have a lot of growers that grow
in New York
Spanish
State.
Roja in New York.
In New York State.
Yes.
Right.
So what kinds of Rocam bowls do you guys grow?
German white, basically.
Oh, it's all just German white?
Well, for me, German white and music I've added. That's basically it.
So you're using 2 porcelain varieties, which makes sense. They're more vigorous. So the reason New York growers grow the Rocam bowls, if they can get away with it, is because they're culinary garlic. People like the flavor. Chefs like them. Garlic aficionados like them. People going to the Saugerties Garlic Festival like them.
Right.
So that's the reason, but and because they have 8 to 11 cloves. If you can grow them well, economically, it's really good.
No, I know this is a killer because we have 5 or 6, bulbs. So like, boom, 20% of your crop you can't even sell.
Exactly.
So, but we, so we try to charge. You have to charge more because you have to charge more. But I sell this as a cook's garlic because they're bigger bulbs. I say, well, if you want garlic, do you want to stand there peeling all these little stupid things, or do you want to just go wham, wham, and have a lot of garlic?
The funny thing about a bulb like this is that in certain markets you could still sell it. The bulb itself is still firm. Like for processing garlic, it's fine. But you can see I can just yank these roots right off, and they were dead on the basil plate. But it's pretty firm. I mean, if you push on that,
we found
it's not rotting.
I have rotting ones and some like these. I didn't know about the marketability of it.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you...
Does it affect flavor?
No.
Someone said, well, what about making into black garlic? And I said, I didn't want to make black garlic out of fusarium.
Right, there's some extra microbes involved in the process then. Yeah, you can certainly process it, and it'll store not as long, but it will keep for a while, and it does not affect the flavor.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, like, CSAs that are dealing with this will usually just send out a note that says, you should eat this garlic right away.
So it does affect its keeping quality.
Yeah, because it kind of opens up the bottom. The wrappers are a little loose.
Wow, all right, that's good to know.
So I would have probably said this could theoretically stay in the ground a little bit longer, or you could pull it out now. The other thing that you want to be looking at very carefully is the number of wrapper leaves that are left. So the wrapper leaves are basically the quality control for the bulb. So in this particular case, if we count back the number of intact wrapper leaves, we've got 1, 2, 3, I think. And that says to me I would pull it regardless of the gapping, because
Right.
you know, we've lost this leaf. This leaf is gone and has no more sealing power. This one's gone, this one's gone, this one's gone. So really we've got like 1, 2, 3 really, well, like 1, 2, 3 really good ones. These couple are actually probably wrapped around the inside. And if you have less than 3, when you clean it, take one more off to make it pretty, it's like you have a very thin baggie around your food, right? So the thicker the baggie, the more likely it is to keep everything in and other bad stuff out. So
How
this
many
is
are you
ready.
hoping for?
Oftentimes, depending on how your garlic is looking, you'll end up with 5, but the minimum is 3.
Flags.
Oh, and so the reason I don't use the leaves anymore is because I've had a couple years where I got really burnt by that. One year, I had garlic that just looked beautiful. Like this garlic, this particular plant, if I used that as my indicator for this field, it has no brown leaves. So the field is actually ready, but that particular plant looks amazing. And it could even split and still have green leaves, depending on the year. And I've had other years where the garlic is just really tired. Like my trial this year probably could have grown a little bit more, but the tops are just done. It's hot and dry and the garlic's like, I'm over it, I'm out. So I gotta get it out of the ground because the wrappers are starting to break down even though it could have sized up more. So I don't use the leaves as an exclusive indicator anymore. I use the cut and the count.
Well, I harvest the whole thing at once, so I look for
Yeah.
at least half of them, or a little more than half.
But if you were eyeballing this, would you say it was ready? Because if I did the count on these, I don't know if I would say it was ready.
No, I
Let's
don't.
wait on
Close.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
It's close,
be-
but isn't it better to err on the early, slightly earlier than going like oops and you start getting, you know,
Splitting.
splitting?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you get rain, and you get
Right.
a couple of.
You also
Right,
got to
and then
look at the
everything
weather.
goes wrong.
You know,
Right.
if you got also, there's 3 days of rain coming. We better get this in now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I've always found it a little earlier. No, I've never
Yes.
regretted it too much, taking it in earlier. I've regretted waiting,
Absolutely.
and then the weather goes.
So
Agreed.
what's the potential downside of earlier?
Oh, well,
Is there any? I mean, what about neck?
I mean, the yield is already there, right?
more or less.
You're
yeah.
not gonna get any more weight.
I think
Like
the
that.
downside is it takes a little longer to cure.
Yeah, and sometimes it comes
Yeah.
out kind of wrinkly. I think so.
No,
when
is
it
that
gets,
I've seen the wrinkly
yeah, when it gets a little wrinkly.
because there's too much green in the wrapper.
Yeah, and
So-
when they shrink, there's not enough volume to keep them tight. They just
Ah,
wrinkle.
okay. Ah.
So that's my.